Hi guys, and welcome to Walmart. This is the Walmart build challenge. We're basically starting with a very cheap budget build that anyone can afford. No excuses. This is going to be super cheap budget. We're starting with the budget of 40C. So I cleaned up some of my tabs to do this very fresh. I'm not allowing myself anything other than scrolls of wisdom and portal scrolls just to get started, and then we've got the build, which is the 40C, and then I got a Walmart 10 pack of T10 ghetto maps. Okay, very thematic. So the build that I slapped together for this challenge slash guide slash test is basically an ED Contagion Occultist. ED Contagion Occultist is very good in terms of clear speed, and I managed to also go low life on a budget of 40C. How did I do it? Okay, this is very simple. We got the Chevron's wrappings, which I bought corrupted for 10C. This also has +2 to level of curse gems on the corruption. I managed to snipe that for 10C. I mean, not actually snipe that, it was just for sale. There were many shavs for 10C. They're just not gonna be 6 linked, so we're gonna have to figure that out. How do we fit links in, like, how is our main skill gem gonna work in some other spot? But for now, the shavs are gonna have Bane and Despair in it, and Despair is gonna get the +2 to levels, so it was gonna running like Flame Dash in here. So that's our main chest piece, 10C total cost of that. Then I got a 5 link Cane of Unraveling for 2 chaos. This actually costs 2 chaos, and that's going to be our main skill. As you can see, I'm still using the Essence Drain. Level 18 is the gem that I leveled with. We're not buying like some expensive gems or anything. Gems are also just what I would level with and just acquire it throughout the leveling. So Cane of Unraveling is going to give us a lot of chaos damage, and it's going to give us extra power charges, extra mana regen, extra cast speed. Very strong for very cheap. Then we also are using the Vertex, which is also a 2C unique. And we got it with our like contagion in it, which is gonna get +2 levels and lower cost, some chaos res, and large amount of energy shield for very cheap. Then we've got the only expensive-ish item. I got this for 15C total cost. It has the freedom of movement, very cheap anointment, and I just needed the strength and +2 level of gems and crafted some max energy shield on it. Very cheap. You can snipe that for less. There was actually another one with like chaos dot multiplier on it for like 20C. Very cheap to get something like that. You don't even need the +1 to chaos skill gems, but I wanted to do it because it was like within the budget. There was like nothing to spend the currency on anymore. So I got that. Then we've got rings that just have resistances. That's it. Resistances and a little bit of energy shield. Then we've got 1C unique allelopathy that gives us the level 22 blight that we are linking here with like efficacy, controlled destruction, swift affliction, and void manipulation. Then we've got 1C abated breath, another unique that gives us just a bunch of energy shield. And then we've got 1C rainbow strad. When I went to the Uber lab, I enchanted it myself. So this is all just 1C unique, very cheap, like super cheap gear. And then we had a couple C left, and I bought the jewels that help me fix my resistances, give me a little bit more energy shield, and the stats that I need, which is dexterity and strength. And that all together with like basic flasks that we have on this character, very basic flasks that we're going to be using, and that's it. There is nothing else that we're going to be using other than this, the 10 maps and the scrolls of wisdoms and portal scrolls. And then we also are using the spreading rod, which we got during leveling as a quest reward. Nothing else in here, nothing expensive, nothing more than like, if you are mapping, right? If you're playing this game and you got 2 maps and you played for a few days, you have more currency than I'm gonna have in this challenge. So there is like no excuses for anyone. Anyone can put this build together. I will show you a POB in the description. You can follow this, you can do the exact same thing, and you can use the strategies that I'm gonna be using. I am basically going to be farming, starting with Valdo's Rest. I'm gonna be farming the Valdo's Rest map for the extra Harbingers, and then we're gonna be farming New Vestir Legions. And I'm starting with just the T10 maps, and I'm starting with 2 Watchstones in here and 2 Watchstones in here to be dropping these maps, and I have favorited my Canyon and my Dunes, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to be doing this for a day or two, and then hopefully we're going to get to 10x. 10x is the breakpoint that I want to go to, and basically right now I'm recording the intro. We're gonna equip all the gear, jump into the maps. I'm gonna be doing this on stream as well, and we're gonna be farming these maps until we get 10x of stuff. We can even sell stuff until we have like liquid 10x to show it, and that's going to be the challenge, just to show you guys that no matter the budget, even with like a cheap starter build that is super easy to get going, this character got level 2 maps in like 4 hours, and now we leveled it a little bit higher and then got the gear for 40C, and it's gonna be super easy. So let's move on to the footage of the actual maps so that you can see what's going on with the farming. So while you're seeing some footage from our farming, let me walk you through everything that you need to know, which is going to be the character progression, what we did for the character, how much we needed to invest more into it from the initial 40C, the map progression, how we did the maps and how we progressed. Then I'm going to talk about the net worth progression, how much of the money we were actually spending and reinvesting and how much we were saving. And then the initial strategy versus the end strategy, where we ended up, as well as where the money actually came from, so that you can know what to sell, what to pick up, what to pay attention to. So in terms of the character progression first, the character for 40C would be able to do everything we did. However, I decided to upgrade a little bit. I spent at first a little bit on the essence drain. I think I spent like 5 chaos on level 5 chaos on level 21 essence drain. That was one of the first upgrades I did when I got just a little bit of chaos. And then the second upgrade I did is to get actually a 6-link Cane of Unraveling. I got it for I think like 15 or 25C, something like that, very cheap, and then used 1 chromatic to recolor it, and that's it. And I bought also Empower, which costed I think like 15 chaos. So those were the investments into the character. Nothing else was invested into the character, just as it was in the initial POB. Basically you just add level 21 essence drain and a 6th link with Empower in the cane, and that's it, and it clears all of the content, including the T15s and T16s that we ended up doing. Then when it comes to map progression, we started with 2 Watchstones in Valdo's Rest, and we were doing, first I started with the 10 maps that I gave myself, which were like T10 Ghetto. Horrible map. After doing like 3 of them, I got a few canyons, and then I jumped straight into canyon. So I started doing canyons with favorited canyon. I was dropping canyons, I was dropping T11 dunes, so 1 tier higher. So we immediately jumped to dunes, then we started doing legions in that, and while I was doing that, I socketed another watchstone into Valdos so that my canyon would become T12. So I dropped T12 canyons. Once I dropped a few of them, I started doing T12 canyons, but I socketed another watchstone in here, and my dunes were T13. So from T12 canyon, I went to T13 dunes, and then I socketed another watchstone. However, this jumps canyon to T15, so you need to actually do some other T14 in here until you drop some canyons. And then when you do the T15 canyons, you socket another watchstone into the new Vastir, and you end up having T15 dunes and T15 canyons, which self-sustain. If I run out of some of them, then I did like a T16 map, and then maybe I did rituals, but normally I skipped rituals. In terms of the net worth progression, basically the first early chaos that I got, I invested into the character so that it can clear legions very easily. And then after that, I invested into chisels, and I invested into rusted legion scarabs. Basically that's it. I think nothing else. Maybe sextants. I don't know. I don't think I bought sextants even, because I was just like self-sustaining them because I didn't need to use that many. So I bought chisels and I bought scarabs because that obviously was not something I was sustaining. And I bought that right after selling like a first harvest craft that I found. The initial strategy was to farm the canyon with the harbingers, right? So all you need for that is like the diplomatic escort. So you need to do like 2 maven fights, and you do diplomatic escort, and then you just can farm canyons. And then in New Vastir, you need 2 points as well, like 2 maven fights to get the emblematic, and you find the like full emblems in that region while doing Legion. And you get Legion from Zana map device. As soon as I sold something, I sold a couple of early emblems. Later on I sold them in bulk, but early on I sold them individually because I needed liquid currency. I sold some ancient orbs and bought the necessary scarabs for this, so that I could also have extra chaos to do the legion from the map device. So scarab and map device guaranteed legions, and then sometimes extra legion that spawns in the maps. So that was the strategy. Basically, that's how we were farming. The end strategy was basically doing T15 Canyon and T15 Dunes. Dunes with the Legion Scarab and whatever fragments I had, and 4 Sextants and Chisel Alk, and same with Valdo's Res except for the Scarab. The currency came from few places. So about, I think 3x or 3.5x came from harvests. So we got a couple of harvest crafts that we actually sold, and I did it on stream as well, so that everybody can see like that this is all just how I was farming, right? I was like I was like against cheating in any way possible, because I have other currency, and if I wanted to, I could be like, haha, I pretend I am now gonna sell this craft, and this craft is sold, and I give myself 20c that I would get for this craft, right? And I could do that. However, I was just super strict and only actually selling things, so that I account also for the time it takes to sell them, because it does take time to sell them. However, it's very, very quick to sell the crafts if you don't do high price. Just do a slightly lower price and get on with it, sell it, and you're gonna get rid of that very quickly and get the liquid currency that you can reinvest. Reinvesting currency is very, very important. So that's like 3x or something like that that came from that. I dropped 1 raw X during all of this. So that's like the 4th X. That's basically where the X come from, and the rest of the chaos is, I think I did the 3 ways, the 5 ways. I sold emblems for like roughly 300 chaos comes from selling the emblems. So that's, that's like already 7x, right? And then I think the remaining, at least 2x come from selling ancient orbs. And then a bunch of X comes from selling. I sold also divines, and I sold a couple of like random 20c items, 10c items. Like I found the patient card, I sold it for like 11c. Bunch of like little stuff that was slightly more expensive than just like random chaos, right? And we still have so much stuff in the tabs that is like even unidentified, like bunch of uniques and invitations, shaper maps, different types of things, a lot of different currencies. We still have the scarabs back, and if we look at the excellence data, it will show that we actually have 20x, like actually 21x worth of stuff. Let's count it 20, okay? So we actually managed to make 20x in one day from this character, from this starting point that I showed you. 20, not 10. I actually made 20x. If I bothered to convert all of that into liquid currency, we would have over 20 raw X in here. I could convert the chaos into that. I could convert like every single currency. If I sold it for however much chaos I could sell it, we would have over 20x in here, especially if I would sell, like if I would identify everything and price check everything and like price the jewels properly, because there are like so many jewels. I was also corrupting jewels. Like if you look at some of them, there are like things like that you could be doing. I however recommend I just dump it into the tab. Like I corrupted all of them. Like for example, like we had some mana reservation implicit, right? So I corrupted a bunch of them, and something might sell, they might not sell, but that's something that you can do to make currency without having to pay too much attention to it. There are certain things that I was not doing on purpose, because you actually make less currency if you do them. Number 1, rituals. Once I had enough alchemy orbs and like enough scours and enough chisels to run my maps, I stopped doing rituals completely. The only time after that I did rituals is when I was like, I had a bunch of maps, but I didn't have a canyon or a dune T15, so I was doing like a T16 map just to drop some extra maps of the ones that I would prefer to do. So I did rituals there to like drop more maps, and I dropped like dunes and from canyon, and from then on I just self-sustain all of them, because I have tons of maps. We can see like T16 maps, you know, a bunch of T16 maps that we have here that I could run. However, I just wanted to run these 2 specific T15s because that was the strategy, right? So number one thing I didn't do is rituals, right? I skipped all rituals after I had like the basic requirements, like few alks and a few scours and a few caves that I could actually roll my maps, because we started with literally nothing. So that's number one thing that I was not doing. Number two thing that I was not doing at all is picking up rare items. There are absolutely no rare items on my filter except for the jewels, which jewels I should probably actually did not pick up as well. It was not worth it. In my opinion, it's not worth picking up jewels and even corrupting them. Yes, you can make some currency, but picking up jewels is probably also not worth it. Like the rare jewels, unique jewels, you just look what they are, and if there is something expensive, then of course you pick it up. But not picking up rares. Another thing I was not doing is any other regions. I was not worrying about conquerors. Also, because I started with less watchstones in the beginning, I actually did not have any of the maps with extra influence monsters or conquerors for extra maps. None of that was available to me early, which I think kind of makes up for the fact that I have high Atlas bonus, right? So normally when you start, you're probably gonna have lower Atlas bonus. If you're like a newer player who's just doing maps for a few days, you're gonna have much lower Atlas bonus. However, you're gonna have these extra conqueror monsters, like 30 packs in a map. You're gonna have a lot more packs in your maps, and you're gonna have extra maps for the conquerors and the conquerors fights, which are gonna add to the currency that you're making. So that is something that I basically was not getting for the majority of this farm. So that's another thing that was not happening. Another thing that I was not doing is reinvesting more into the strategy, because if I was actually planning on playing the league and this was like my league starter, right? If this was my league starter and I was like just continuing to play normally this currency would not be in the tab, but I on purpose wanted to make it like super obvious that you get this currency, because people are like gonna be not seeing pure currency and they're gonna be confused. Where is the currency? I don't understand. So I wanted to make it liquid for you guys to see. But otherwise, what I would be doing is actually reinvesting. I would be buying watchstones, I would be crafting them. I was not using any. I would be buying more sextants. I would be using awakened sextants. I would be buying more scarabs. I would be using 4 scarabs in every single map. And that's what I would be doing, investing even more. However, I wanted to really quickly get to 10x liquid so that I can show you guys that this is very, very doable on the smallest of budgets, on the smallest of the small budgets. A 40C character that can clear T16 maps very quickly and do like T15 dunes with clearing full legions very easily. So I wanted to just show that this is something you can do. But there's so much currency in other things here as well. So those are the main things that I was focusing on. I was just focusing on running maps quickly. Sometimes I was not killing bosses if they were too difficult. You just move. You need to understand where does the money come from, and you need to just keep focusing on that. I knew that the money comes from harvests, so I used mostly Zana missions. Whenever I had Zana missions, I used all the Zana missions and looked for harvest in those maps. I focused on getting my harbingers. So if there was a map that was like, I don't necessarily want to do this map, or I want to switch to doing another map now, but I still have the harbingers in it, I will do the harbingers, right? Focus on doing the harbingers. And because the harbingers giving you ancients and annuls and also exalted shards, I actually got like 1 pure exalt from this. I think I got 1 pure exalt actually from exalted shards. So that's where 1 comes from. Yeah, so 2 are from selling harvests. 1 is found by me and 1 is from exalted shards. And then there was like almost 1 exalt worth of chaos from remaining couple harvest crafts. I think like 20 or 30 C and then like 60 C or something like it's like 90 C worth of harvest crafts as well. But don't focus too much on the tiny harvest crafts. Oh, another thing I was not doing, dealing with the tiny little harvest crafts. Like you can use, some people were suggesting, get a jewel and roll it with the harvest crafts that like reroll, like free chaos basically from harvest. I don't recommend doing that. It's kind of a waste of time. You're gonna need to use a lot of them. You're gonna need to pay attention to mods. You're gonna need to read it. You're gonna need to price check them. Every single one that you do, if you don't understand it properly, you're gonna like need to price check. Better than doing that is just run another map, kill some legions, get an emblem, and then you sell a 5-way for like 90C or something like that right now, right? So that is much better. Or like get some ancient orbs and sell like 5 of them for an X. It's much quicker, and this is where the real currency is coming from. So you should focus on those things and not on like marginal gains that you can do. You should not try to maximize your gain per map. That's the thing. Don't try to maximize your currency gain per map. Try to maximize your currency gain per hour. That is going to be much more efficient. You're going to have much better time. You're going to have a better character. You're going to have more currency to reinvest into your strategy and just make much more. So I don't want to hear no more excuses that you don't have currency to make any build pretty much that isn't like a, I don't know, aura stacker or something. Because anybody can do this. This takes very little. If you cannot do this in one day, obviously, because you don't have that much time, you just split it among smaller sessions. But this is still something that has like if you have like a free Saturday, okay, and you have a character that is worth like 40C, and you are in maps and you can do like T10 maps or something like that, you can do this on a Saturday. In just a whole Saturday of playing, you can do this, no problem. Like make 20x. Very simple. Just use these strategies, and if you don't know what strategy to use, because it's very important to follow a strategy and know where the currency comes from and know a character that is good. If you don't know how to make a good character, if you don't know how to invent a good strategy, just copy what works, right? Just copy what works. The strategy of New Vestir is something that I did not invent. This was something that other people were doing. The Harbinger, I did not invent that, even though there's like nothing to invent. You just run this because it gives you a lot of monsters and loot. But this is something that other people were doing, and I just took advantage of that. I figured, okay, this is gonna be the build that is good for it. I made the build, even though it's just like a very generic build, but this is like my twist on it, how to do it very cheaply and very effectively. And you can just copy that and run with it and make tons of currency and just reinvest it and make more and more. Every time you invest into your ways of making currency, like better watchstones, better sextants, better scarabs, you end up making more and more per hour. So that's it. Hopefully this has been helpful. You can find the POB for the initial version of the character and the final version of the character in the description. Check out our stream at Asmodeus Streams on Twitch TV, and see you next time.